And I pointed this out in my tweet. They allow other people, they allow the trolls or the pessimists to control and define the narrative. But if you zoom out and you focus on the big picture, if you had to make a decision in the summer of 2020 as to what you're going to buy, Bitcoin yields 150% from that point. Silver fails 17%. It falls 17% over this time period. Gold falls 9% over this time period. The Nasdaq's only up 5% from August of 2020 to now. The S&P is up 18%, but the money supply is up 19%.
From cryptocurrencies to stocks and commodities, all asset classes have taken hits after hits over the past few months. However, some assets have taken bigger hits than others. Just as anonymous investor Plan B explains in his recent tweet, Bitcoin is up by over 300% compared to its pre-pandemic price. In comparison, the S&P 500 index has only increased by 17%. No other explanation is needed to prove Bitcoin's superiority above other assets. And it has been able to achieve all these amazing feats in just 13 years. In comparison, the S&P index, as it is today, has been around since 1957. While speaking in a recent Twitter space hosted by Bitcoin Archive, Michael Saylor, the co-founder and CEO of MicroStrategy, discusses the immense differences between Bitcoin and other asset classes, such as stocks and commodities like gold and silver. Saylor also examines some regulatory changes that could positively impact the crypto industry and the growth path he envisions for the space. In his usual style, Saylor goes all out in his explanation. So ensure you watch the video to the end, hit the like button, and drop your thoughts about the interview in the comments section below. Thanks, and enjoy the video.
Diversified portfolio of scarce desirable equities is just tracking the money supply. The CPI is 11%, but that's understating the true inflation. The PPI is 33%. And what's the highest quality property? It's like U.S. homes. They're up 28%. Okay, and then again, what's close to Bitcoin? The only thing you can find that's anywhere close to Bitcoin's performance as an inflation hedge in the last 18 months is the commodities index. If you go look at the Dow Jones Commodities Index, DJCI, I think, it's like up 92%, which makes sense. It's like stuff that the government can't completely print more of, right, is getting more expensive. And so when you step back and you look at the big picture, right, you see that over a mid and a long frame, there's no better place to be. Every other, what are you going to do? Buy Peloton stock, right? You would have got destroyed. Go check the price of Amazon in the summer of 2020 versus today, right? There's no safe haven, right? Gold and silver are destroyed. Bonds are destroyed. Okay, so if you could roll the clock back 2 years and do anything, right? Yeah, you could buy some shit coin, but we know what happens with the shit coins, right?
Yeah.
They're not institutional asset classes. So in this particular case, you can see that the one legitimate asset that's really working is Bitcoin. It's got volatility, and Archie, I think the volatility is, because the cross-collateralization with all the other crypto assets and the lack of regulatory clarity. So it doesn't help us, that people are selling Luna and, and they're buying Bitcoin and selling Bitcoin and all that cross-collateralization conjoins Bitcoin to the other cryptos. And the fact that the other cryptos trade with thin liquidity, with thin information, with massive leverage offshore, I think that's been a net negative for Bitcoin. Right? It's kind of like, we're kind of slimed by that association. So, yeah, that's bad. But, what's your choice? I could either buy Bitcoin and accept the imperfections and the immaturity of the asset class, or I could buy gold and I would have lost 10% of my money instead of getting 150% gain. So, of course, I would rather take the imperfect right answer than hold out until we perfected it. Now, what's going to perfect Bitcoin? Well, what's going to perfect Bitcoin is clarity of who's the regulator. When they regulate the crypto exchanges, that'll help Bitcoin. When the SEC gets these exchanges regulated. When they regulate the DeFi exchanges, that'll help Bitcoin. When they regulate the stable coins, that'll help Bitcoin. When they clamp down on all the unregistered securities in the crypto industry, that'll help Bitcoin. when people aren't trading at 20-to-1 leverage offshore, right, with a cross collateralized token, that gets them another 5x or 10x, it'll help Bitcoin. When the SEC approves a spot ETF, it'll help Bitcoin. When the FASB fixes the accounting, and FASB just voted 7-0 yesterday to make that a formal project, that'll help Bitcoin, reforming the accounting. When the FDIC gives clear guidance about how banks can hold Bitcoin, that'll help Bitcoin.
In early April, MicroStrategy, Saylor's analytics firm, took a Bitcoin-backed loan from Silvergate Bank to acquire more Bitcoins. Saylor explains that it wasn't a need for the firm to acquire the loan at the time, but he wanted to show that it was possible and encourage others to do the same. It worked because less than a month later, Goldman Sachs also announced offering its first Bitcoin-backed loan.
Right. The reason I did the Silvergate loan is not because I needed the money. It's because I wanted to legitimize and institutionalize Bitcoin banking, and I want to make it clear, right? I want to make it clear that you can borrow against Bitcoin and normalize it so that other publicly traded companies and other large Bitcoin holders also know that it's possible. And I wanted to bring the spreads in, and I wanted to make sure that I educated the market. So, yeah, if anybody else is holding $1 billion of Bitcoin on their balance sheet, I would say, yeah, go to Silvergate and borrow $40 million and take a loan to value 4% at 3% interest. It's good for you. It's good for them. It's good for the industry. So the normalization of the asset class, good for Bitcoin, right? And each of these things in turn, they all represent milestones on the journey from being an offshore entrepreneurial embryonic industry to being an onshore institutionalized asset class, an institutionalized market. Like it or not, the companies and the organizations that need to enter the space are big banks. We need, we're now getting coverage from Bank of America, from Citigroup, from, JP Morgan, right? We need Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley and these big banks to get comfortable with Bitcoin. And they're much more comfortable today than they were 12 months ago. We need public investors to invest in Bitcoin, right? And by the way, they are, right? I mean, the fact that you've got big institutions willing to actually trade 4 million MicroStrategy shares. That's, $600 million or $700 million of trading, in how many hours? 5.5 hours. The fact that they're willing to do that means that the asset class is maturing, right? We need public investors. We need public companies. We need public auditors. We need lawyers. We need bankers, right? We need the media. We need them all to cover it, right? And they are, right? It's CNBC's covering it. Maybe the crypto crash, but it's on CNBC, and that means Bloomberg's talking about it, and that means New York Times writes a story about it today, and the Wall Street Journal is going to write a story about it. And Archie, you remember like 18 months ago when people on Bitcoin Twitter used to lament that mainstream media wouldn't cover us? I do.
Unlike this time last year or the year before, leading traditional financial institutions are getting more involved in the cryptocurrency space, from Bitcoin-backed loans to 401k offerings and various seed round fundings. All the big institutions are getting more involved and more comfortable with the crypto industry. This clearly proves that the revolution of the investment sector that Bitcoin started 13 years ago will not end regardless of market conditions. What do you think about Saylor's interview? Will suitable regulations of the crypto space bring much-needed changes, as Saylor explains, or reduce the crypto space to another centralized industry controlled by the government? Please drop your comments below, and don't forget to hit the like button. Thanks for watching.